Look, I'm gonna keep it so real. I am recording this the day, the Monday before Christmas. So I'm already feeling the effects of it's the vacation and holiday season, don't need to work kind of laziness, but I know I need to work, so here we are. But also, just got some news about my grandfather. His dog isn't doing so well. And that news in combination with the holidays has kind of shattered all motivation to kind of do things. So, instead of the video that I had planned for today, this week and next week, it's just going to be a shorts compilation. I had done one a few months back when my sister's fiance had gone in for surgery. And we're doing a few more, both so I can try to enjoy the holidays and because, pardon me, I tend not to swear much on my channel, but fucking shit, man, right before Christmas. Ugh. So yeah, please enjoy a shorts compilation. I'm just tired of today.
Me and my mother enjoy playing video games together. As the years have gone on, I have found more joy in this pastime. One of those games we have played is Bread and Fred, a co-op game where you and a friend play as penguins climbing a mountain. I made a video on our time playing Bread and Fred. If you have seen that video, my mother has since acknowledged that while it is a fun game to play, it causes her a lot of stress, and thus it has been relegated to being a game we only play on occasion. If you want to listen to our full thoughts on the Goofy Penguin game, check it out below. Mario and Luigi Brothership is a wonderful return to the Mario and Luigi series. As it tends to be the case with Nintendo titles, accessibility settings in-game are a rare sight, this game being one such occasion. If you end up really struggling in a fight, eventually as you continue to retry, the game will present you with the option to attempt an easier version of that fight, and if you end up still struggling, they present you with cakewalk difficulty. Sadly, the difficulty change is reverted after that fight. If you want to hear more about these temporary difficulty adjustments and my other thoughts on the game, click the video below.
Cat Quest 2 is an absolutely wild continuation from the first game. In Cat Quest 2 you play as a cat and a dog, who were kings of the kingdoms of cat and dogs, brought back to your kingdoms to take back your thrones and reforge the king's blade. The lore and puns continue to run deep through the sequel. In terms of accessibility, the game doesn't have much to offer, which can be a shame due to the control scheme of the sequel being slightly more complicated than the first game. Despite this, I absolutely love these goofy games. Check out my full thoughts on Cat Quest 2 via the link below.
Arg. You ready to conclude our mini-series on the Cat Quest games, matey? Today we set sail for the 7 seas in Cat Quest 3. A swashbuckling adventure in pursuit of an artifact named the North Star. The North Star was said to grant you any wish your heart desires, but this ends up being a farce. As you pursue clues to the North Star's whereabouts, you encounter the Wardens of the North Star, pirates that were said to be the first to discover the artifact and have their wishes granted. I will not entirely spoil the plot in this short, as that game is a somewhat recent release. However, similarly to the prior Cat Quest games, Cat Quest 3 doesn't really have any accessibility settings, but is also shorter than Cat Quest 2 and has a somewhat smaller explorable area. Seeing as Cat Quest 3 takes place exclusively in an archipelago. If you want to hear more on my thoughts of this piracy adventure, click the related video below.
A few months back I made a series of videos talking about the Cat Quest games. A series of games about humanoid cats in a fantastical setting full of puns, deep lore, and an overall vibe that can't help but make you chuckle. The games don't really have accessibility settings. With the first game, that was okay because the controls were very simple. As the games went on, however, those controls got more complex and would make them harder to enjoy for people with motor skill issues. The games are a lot of fun regardless, and you can hear my thoughts on Cat Quest 1 below.
The past decade for me has been a wild ride, from graduating high school to going to college for culinary arts, and then deciding after a short time in college that I wanted to switch majors, to learning media arts and marketing. With COVID forcing us all to stay at home for the latter half of it, followed by a struggle to find remote work as businesses began the push to return to offices, my grandfather getting cancer resulting in us spend more time away from home, and many other family health problems, and with me deciding to pivot and make YouTube videos and practice meditation and a healthier lifestyle with my mother. The past decade has not gone at all how I anticipated. So, why is this legally blind gamer who normally focuses on talking about games outlining the spark notes of the past decade of his life? That's because the past decade's events give me a perspective to really appreciate the symbolism, themes, and message behind the game Celeste. Celeste is a challenging game about climbing a mountain, confronting the parts of yourself that you shun or make you feel inadequate, and rather than trying to force them into submission, accepting them in a way that allows you to work together with your perceived shortcomings. The game does also offer a decent range of accessibility settings, such as adjusting how many mid-air dashes you can do, whether or not you are invulnerable, adjusting how long you can hold onto walls, and a few other settings to make the game easier. The part that I love about how Celeste handles its accessibility settings isn't even an option within the menu itself, it is the message you see before accessing the menu. To paraphrase the message, Celeste is meant to be a challenging game, but we also want everyone to have the opportunity to enjoy Celeste. We encourage you to try playing the game without these settings, but if it proves too difficult, you can access these settings at any time. The entire theme and messaging around Celeste is that climbing a mountain, whatever that mountain may be, is never easy, and can almost never be achieved purely on one's own, and that asking for help is not only okay, but that it is one of hardest and most important part of overcoming great obstacles. My past decade of experience can speak to that on a level I never am ready to fully embrace whenever I boot up the game. I often have to take breaks, not because of how difficult it is, but because of how much I resonate with the game's themes. Not every game needs to be difficult like Celeste, but more difficult games should take note on Celeste's accessibility. I have talked a little bit about my love of cooking in the past. My mother always made cooking with her fun. There were very few times where us kids were told we needed to get out of the kitchen, usually because we were eating all of the ingredients, but most of the time, she'd have us stir bowls or add in ingredients she already measured out. This early love for cooking made me convinced as a kid that I wanted to open my own restaurant when I grew up. I attended culinary classes starting in high school. It was a 2-year program. In the first year, you learned your basic knife skills, measurement conversions, food safety, how to operate all the machines in the kitchen, and use that knowledge to make risottos, donuts, cakes, cookies, soups, pastas, salads. And you also had to serve people in the on-campus restaurant. Then, in the second year, you learned a lot more of the business side of the kitchen, ordering ingredients, pricing meals based on unit cost of ingredients, time, labor, and other financial aspects of the industry, as well as making the food for the restaurant, prepping catering orders, and then prepping a 3-course meal for someone you know. After high school, I majored in culinary for a few semesters, and eventually hit a breaking point where I realized that I only really enjoyed cooking, not doing professionally. So I switched majors and got an associate's in media arts and a bachelor's in mass communication. I bring this up so I can talk about the early access game called Chef RPG. The game sees you take on the ownership position of a rundown restaurant in a town that is also slowly falling apart. The goal of the game is to gradually grow the renown of your restaurant to restore interest in it and the town, befriend the townsfolk, and to improve your skills as a chef, which involves some fishing, farming, foraging, shopping for crops and decorations to transform your restaurant with, and having a good time while doing so. In terms of accessibility, due to it still being in early access, There aren't any accessibility settings, however. Playing this game captured my love for cooking without all the real-life stress that goes into running a business.
Chicory, A Colorful Tale is a game that I enjoyed on a gameplay level, but also on the deeper narrative level. The game sees you, a simple janitor, given a magical paintbrush in a world that is now devoid of color. Gameplay-wise, it is a goofy and charming Metroidvania. Story-wise, it hammers home themes of imposter syndrome, burdens of responsibility, and the importance to not let your responsibilities rob you of your creativity and enjoyment of life. Check out my video on Chicory below.
Merry Christmas from LBG Reviews. I hope you are all warm and happy with your friends and family. I know I will be. Thank you to everybody that has tuned into my shorts, my videos, and anything else I do. It means a lot to me. Last year, one made an advent calendar series to celebrate. Merry Christmas from LBG Reviews. I hope you are all warm and happy with your friends and family. I know I will be. Thank you to everybody that has tuned into my shorts, my videos, and anything else I do. It means a lot to me. Last year, one made an advent calendar series to celebrate. It contained many games that initially I deemed not worth making full videos out of. Over the past year, a few of those games have made it into full videos, but not all of them. If you want to hear what games I deemed not worth a full video last year, check out the final compilation video below.
By now, it is well established that I am the legally blind gamer who likes cozy games, so the game Cozy Grove is unsurprisingly right up my alley. Sometimes I am not the biggest fan of games that make use of real-world time, like Animal Crossing, Disney Dreamlight Valley, or Hello Kitty Island Adventure. My issue with these games stems from how the use of real-world time forces you to take it slow. Sometimes I just have loads of time on my hands and want to get a lot done in one day without having to wait. Cozy Grove is one of these types of games, and while the real-world time aspect does still irk me at times, something about the charm of Cozy Grove makes it more bearable for longer. In terms of accessibility settings, none exist, but Cozy Grove gets my seal of approval specifically for a character named Octavia who is in a wheelchair. I always appreciate games that include disabled characters. You can hear more on my thoughts on Cozy Grove via the video below. Cozy games are great. Viva Pinata was one of the first cozy games I had ever played. Tending to your garden, fulfilling requirements to attract and befriend certain piñata species, getting them ready for parties, making sure your piñatas didn't have their natural predators or prey living too close together, unlocking upgrades, decorations, and customizing your garden however you pleased was always fun as a kid. This brings me to the game Critter Garden, a game that clearly takes heavy inspiration from Viva Pinata. It sees you take on the role of a xenobiologist who crash lands on a desolate planet inhabited by a single robot. In order to rebuild your ship and get off the planet, you need to restore the landscape and biodiversity of the planet to level up to gain access to new tools, decorations, and other supplies. In terms of accessibility settings, the game offers sensitivity controls for panning the camera and moving the cursor, deciding whether or not you need to hold the button to carry items, and disabling text and/or poop sounds. Playing this game makes me very nostalgic for when I first learned about Viva Pinata, back when you could rent games from Blockbuster and other similar stores, once a month, or rarely more frequently. Our family would go to Blockbuster or Mammoth Video to rent movies and games. Viva Pinata was always one of my go-to rentals for a while, until one day we bought it and Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts in the Platinum Hits collection. Nuts and Bolts was one of my first times playing a game with vehicle customization, but that's for another day.
When I first started playing Dave the Diver, I wasn't too impressed with the game, but after a few months away, I came back to the game and fell in love with its gameplay loop. Catch fish, serve customers, use money to upgrade gear, improve other faculties, and repeat. The gameplay loop is very relaxing, so if you want to hear my original take on Dave the Diver, click the video below.
Technical difficulties and feeling under the weather have resulted in me needing to compromise on the quality of today's short. Dispatch is a choice-driven story about being a dispatcher of superheroes that has a lot of accessibility settings for subtitle customization. Check out the related video for more info.
Donkey Kong games have a long history in my family. My mom used to play lots of games when she was around my age. I've heard stories many times about how when I was a toddler, we used to have the original guidebooks for all the collectibles and secrets in the Donkey Kong Country games, and how for a while, it got to a point where my mom, my sister, and my older brother memorized nearly all of the secrets. Even now, while they can't always recall exactly what you need to do for each one. If we boot up the old SNES and play Donkey Kong, you'll be going through the level fine, and then one of them will pipe up with some variation of, "I think there's a secret there. But how do you get there?" I could go on about the house rules for gaming, and other memories tied to it, but why am I bringing this up? Donkey Kong Bonanza is why. When Donkey Kong Bonanza first came out, I knew I needed to have my mom try it out. She played for a second, but there was a problem that I already knew would likely crop up. My mom doesn't do well with games that require moving the camera. Although my mom and I have played games like It Takes Two, Split Fiction, and Portal 2 co-op, there are always moments where she loses track of where she is, runs into walls, and gets stuck in bizarre places. After trying to play Bonanza for a bit, she gave up and watched me play for a while. But this is also where one of the routines my mom and I have comes in handy, especially on days she can't sit and watch me. We try to go on walks and hikes whenever we can to stay active and enjoy the outdoors. On these walks and hikes I tell my mom about whatever game I have been recently playing. We discuss mechanics, themes, atmosphere, and anything else I find interesting about each game. This may have originally sounded like I was on a massive tangent, but it is important to mention, because although Donkey Kong Bonanza doesn't have traditional accessibility settings, nor can my mom play it easily, my mom was still able to enjoy the latest game starring one of her favorite characters because of our time together.